Be me, Claire. Always thought dating was the easiest thing in the world. Used to laugh at guys who complained about dating apps. Boy, was I wrong about literally everything. Let me paint you a picture of my life before this whole mess started. Every single time I downloaded a dating app, it was like Christmas morning. Within the first hour, my phone would be buzzing non-stop with notifications. You have 99 plus likes became the most normal thing in my world. Seriously, I got so used to it that I thought something was broken if I didn't get at least 50 matches in a day. My photos weren't even that great half the time. Sometimes I'd post pictures where I looked tired or wasn't wearing makeup. Didn't matter. Guys would still swipe right, like their lives depended on it. I'd write the most basic bio ever, something like love, coffee, and adventures. Still got flooded with messages from guys trying to start conversations. The whole thing felt so effortless that I never questioned it. Just assumed this was how dating worked for everyone in the modern world. Open app, get overwhelmed by options, pick the best looking guys, go on dates, rinse and repeat whenever I wanted some attention or free dinner. Honestly thought anyone who struggled was just doing something fundamentally wrong. Me and my girls would spend hours going through dating apps together. We'd sit around judging profiles like we were some kind of dating experts. Look at this guy complaining about not getting matches in his bio. Maybe if he tried being more interesting instead of whining. If you can't even get a date online, what's wrong with you? We were absolutely ruthless about it too. Would screenshot the most cringeworthy profiles to laugh at later. Made fun of guys who seemed desperate or tried too hard. Ugh, another guy talking about how nice he is. Instant left swipe. Why do all these boring guys think they deserve a chance? The entitlement was real, and I didn't even recognize it. Thought I was some kind of dating guru because everything came so easily. Would give advice to other girls about how to optimize their profiles, as if I had any clue what actual struggle looked like. Just assumed my experience was universal, and everyone else was making excuses. Used to roll my eyes whenever guys would complain about online dating. It's not that hard. Just be yourself and put effort into your photos. If you're not getting matches, you're probably aiming too high. Maybe work on your personality instead of blaming the apps. Classic case of someone who never had to face any real challenges giving advice. My dating life was basically on easy mode, and I had no idea. Could afford to be picky about everything. Height, job, car, apartment. Would unmatch guys for the smallest reasons because I had so many options. He used the wrong form of your / you're definitely not boyfriend material. His photos are cute, but he's only 5'9" next. Never occurred to me that other people might not have the luxury of being so selective. Just thought everyone had endless options and could afford to be choosy. If someone settled for less than perfect, they obviously had low standards. The whole system seemed designed to give everyone exactly what they wanted. How naive was I, seriously? Then comes this conversation that completely changed my perspective on everything. I'm hanging out with this friend of mine, just normal weekend stuff. We're talking about random life things, nothing too deep at first. Somehow the topic shifts to dating and relationships, as it usually does. I'm half paying attention, scrolling through my phone like always. He starts talking about his dating experiences, and I can tell he's frustrated. Not just regular frustrated, but like genuinely defeated about the whole thing. Starts explaining how he's been on dating apps for months with barely any success. I'm thinking to myself, how is that even possible in today's world? Still not really taking it seriously because it sounds so foreign to my experience. But then he drops this bomb that actually makes me look up from my phone. You don't understand what it's like for guys, especially shorter guys. If you're under 6 feet tall, you might as well not exist on these apps. I literally burst out laughing because that sounds completely insane. Like, who cares about height that much in the age of the internet? Come on, that's such an exaggeration, I tell him between giggles. Height is just one factor. There are so many other things that matter more. Girls aren't that shallow. We care about personality and connection. He just stares at me with this expression I can't quite read. Claire, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. The conversation starts getting more intense, and he's clearly passionate about this. Explains how he can go literal weeks without getting a single match, how he'll craft these thoughtful, personalized messages and get complete radio silence, how he's watched his taller friends get matches with the exact same photos and bio. I'm sitting there thinking this has to be some kind of exaggeration or excuse. Maybe you're just not presenting yourself well enough, I suggest helpfully. Have you tried better photos or rewriting your bio to be more interesting? Sometimes you have to really stand out from the crowd to get noticed. He looks at me like I just said the most ignorant thing in human history. I've tried everything, Claire. The problem isn't my photos or my bio. He pulls out his phone and shows me his profile. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Decent photos, well-written description. Nothing obviously wrong with it that would explain his lack of success. See, this looks fine to me, I say, trying to be encouraging. Maybe you're being too picky about who you swipe on. That's when he really loses it and starts explaining the reality. I swipe right on probably 60% of profiles I see. I'm not being picky at all. I'm just trying to get anyone to match with me. Meanwhile, girls can afford to only swipe on the top 10% of guys. The whole system is completely stacked against average men. I'm still not buying it because it goes against everything I've experienced. That doesn't make sense, though. There are equal numbers of men and women. If guys are having such a hard time, where are all these women getting matches from? He explains how dating app algorithms work and how they're designed to be addictive, how women get overwhelmed with options while most men get scraps. Look, I get that dating can be frustrating sometimes, I tell him, but if you're consistently not getting results, maybe the problem isn't the app. Maybe you need to work on yourself or lower your standards a bit. The look he gives me could have melted steel. You really don't get it, do you? He starts getting more specific about the height thing, explains how so many women have 6 feet or taller only in their profiles, how being 5'6" automatically disqualifies him from huge portions of users. It doesn't matter how funny, smart, or successful you are, he says. If you don't meet that height requirement, you're invisible. I'm still skeptical because this sounds so extreme and unrealistic. I don't have height requirements in my bio. Most girls probably don't either. You're probably just focusing on the few shallow ones and ignoring the rest. There are plenty of women who care more about personality than physical traits. He just shakes his head like I'm completely hopeless. Even if women don't explicitly state height preferences, he explains, they still have them subconsciously when they're swiping through profiles. Studies have shown that height is one of the most important factors for women. Taller guys get exponentially more matches than shorter guys with identical profiles. I roll my eyes because this is starting to sound like incel propaganda. The conversation goes on for like another hour with him trying to convince me. He shows me statistics about dating app success rates for different demographics, explains how the top 20% of men get matched with 80% of women, how the average guy has to send hundreds of messages to get a single date. I'm thinking this all sounds made up, or at least heavily exaggerated. If dating is really that hard for men, I challenge him, then how do all these average-looking guys end up in relationships? Walk around anywhere and you'll see plenty of short guys with girlfriends. Your statistics don't match what I observe in the real world. He sighs and tries to explain the difference between online and offline dating. By the end of our conversation, I'm actually getting kind of annoyed. Not because I believe what he's saying, but because he seems so convinced. You know what? If you really think the system is that biased, I tell him, why don't you just meet people in person instead of relying on apps? All this complaining about algorithms and height requirements sounds like excuse-making to me. He gives me this final challenge that I can't stop thinking about afterward. You think I'm making excuses and exaggerating how hard it is. But you've never experienced what dating is like from a man's perspective. If you're so confident that personality and effort matter more than height, why don't you try creating a fake male profile and see what happens? At first, I laugh off the suggestion because it sounds ridiculous, but the more I think about it, the more intrigued I become. What if I could prove him wrong and show that dating isn't actually that hard? Maybe I could demonstrate that his negative attitude is the real problem. This could be the perfect way to settle the argument once and for all. So I start planning this little experiment in my head. I'll create a fake male profile with good photos and an interesting bio. Make him average height, since that seems to be the big issue. Put some real effort into making the profile attractive and engaging. Then watch as the matches start rolling in, proving my point. The idea becomes kind of obsessive for me over the next few days. I keep thinking about how satisfying it will be to prove him wrong, how I'll be able to show him screenshots of all the matches I get. See? It's not about height or the algorithm. You're just not trying hard enough. This experiment is going to vindicate everything I've always believed. I spend way too much time planning out every detail of the fake profile. Research what makes photos attractive for men on dating apps. Come up with a personality and interests that should appeal to women. Write a bio that's funny, confident, and shows emotional intelligence. This profile is going to be irresistible. I'm sure of it. Finally decide on the character I'm going to create. His name will be Robert. Seems like a solid, trustworthy name. I'll make him 5'6", since that's apparently such a deal breaker. But he'll be really attractive facially to compensate for the height. And his personality will be absolutely charming through the bio. Spend hours finding the perfect photos to use for Robert's profile. Need pictures that show an attractive, but not intimidatingly handsome guy. Photos that demonstrate personality, humor, and interesting hobbies. Make sure they look authentic and not like obvious catfish material. This profile is going to be my masterpiece. Write and rewrite the bio probably 20 times until it's perfect. Funny without trying too hard. Confident without being arrogant. Shows intelligence and emotional depth without seeming pretentious. Mentions interesting hobbies and ambitions that should be attractive. This is exactly the kind of guy I would swipe right on. The night before I launch the experiment, I'm genuinely excited. Keep imagining how many matches Robert is going to get. How I'll screenshot all the evidence to show my friend later. This is going to be such a satisfying "I told you so" moment. Finally going to prove that personality and effort trump everything else. Create the profile late at night and immediately start swiping. Going through profiles pretty indiscriminately, swiping right on most women. Expecting my phone to start buzzing with match notifications any minute. This attractive, interesting guy should be getting instant results. Just waiting for the flood of matches to prove my point. First hour passes, and nothing. Not a single match. Not even from the most average-looking profiles. I'm thinking maybe the app needs time to show my profile to people, or maybe there just aren't many active users online right now. Give it some more time and keep swiping. Surely the matches will come. Go to bed that night still confident that tomorrow will bring results. Wake up excited to check all the matches that surely accumulated overnight. Open the app with a big smile, ready to screenshot my vindication. And there are 0 matches. Not one single person found Robert attractive enough to swipe right. Maybe there's a glitch with the app, or my profile isn't showing properly. Delete and recreate the account, making sure everything looks perfect. Start swiping again, being even less selective this time. Swipe right on literally everyone just to maximize my chances. Still absolutely nothing, after several hours of constant swiping. By day 3, I'm starting to feel genuinely frustrated. This makes no sense. Robert is attractive, interesting, and fun. His photos are good, his bio is engaging, he seems like a catch. Yet he's getting completely ignored by every single woman. Something has to be wrong with the algorithm or the app itself. Compare this to my own profile, which gets matches instantly, even when I barely try or use terrible photos. The contrast is so stark that it can't be explained by normal factors. Start wondering if there's some kind of systematic bias happening, but still convinced this has to be a technical issue, not a real pattern. Keep swiping obsessively, checking for matches every few minutes. Hours pass with nothing but radio silence from the dating world. Every woman I swipe right on apparently finds Robert completely unappealing, despite him being exactly the kind of guy I thought women wanted. This is starting to seriously mess with my confidence in my own judgment. A few bot accounts match with Robert here and there. Obvious fake profiles trying to get him to click suspicious links. But zero real women showing any interest whatsoever. Even the most average-looking profiles are apparently out of his league. How is this possible when he seems so much better than most guys I've seen? By the end of the first week, reality is starting to set in. Robert has gotten maybe 2 real matches out of hundreds of swipes, and even those matches never respond to his messages. Meanwhile, my regular profile continues to get dozens of matches daily. The difference is so extreme that I can't ignore it anymore. Start paying more attention to other men's profiles I come across. Notice how many of them mention their height if they're tall. 6'2" or 6'4" prominently displayed, while shorter guys either don't mention it or seem apologetic about it. The pattern is becoming impossible to deny. Try changing Robert's height to 6'2" just as an experiment. Keep everything else exactly the same: photos, bio, interests. Within hours, he starts getting actual matches from real women. The difference is so dramatic that it's actually shocking. One simple number change transforms him from invisible to visible. Change the height back to 5'6" and the matches disappear again. Back and forth several times to confirm this isn't coincidence. Every single time, the results are completely predictable. Tall Robert gets matches, short Robert gets ignored. There's no other explanation, except that my friend was completely right. The realization hits me like a truck, and I feel sick to my stomach. Everything I believed about dating and attraction was completely wrong. Height really is that important, and I was blind to it because of my privilege. All those times I dismissed guys' complaints as excuses or whining. I was the one who was ignorant and out of touch with reality. Think back to all the conversations where I was so condescending. Just be yourself and put effort into your photos. If you're not getting matches, you're probably aiming too high. The problem isn't the app, it's your attitude. I was giving advice from a position of complete ignorance. Remember laughing at my friend when he tried to explain this to me. How confident I was that he was making excuses for his own failures. How sure I was that personality and effort mattered more than physical traits. The embarrassment is overwhelming when I realize how wrong I was, and how dismissive I was of his genuine struggles. For the first time in my life, I experience what it's like to be invisible, to put yourself out there and be completely ignored by the opposite sex, to feel like you're not even worth considering as a potential partner, to have your confidence slowly eroded by constant rejection. It's a horrible feeling that I never imagined existed. Start understanding why some guys become bitter about dating when you're constantly told that personality matters most, but then experience firsthand that physical traits trump everything else. The cognitive dissonance would drive anyone crazy over time, especially when people dismiss your experiences as excuse-making. Feel terrible about all the times I judged men for complaining. They weren't being dramatic or making excuses. They were describing their actual lived reality, while I was lecturing them from my bubble of privilege, completely unaware of how different their experience was. The experiment goes on for 2 more weeks just to be absolutely sure. Robert continues to get virtually no attention from real women, occasional bot matches, and maybe 1 genuine match per week, who never responds to messages or unmatches immediately, while my profile continues to be flooded with options daily. By the end of it, I'm genuinely depressed about the whole situation, not just because I was wrong, but because of how the system actually works, realizing that dating apps are basically designed to fail for most men, while giving women so many options that we become impossibly picky. The whole thing seems cruel and unfair in ways I never recognized. Delete Robert's profile and try to process what I've learned. Everything about modern dating makes sense now in a disturbing way. Why so many guys seem desperate or bitter. Why women can afford to have such specific requirements. Why the whole system feels broken to so many people. Can't stop thinking about all the men who go through this daily, putting themselves out there only to be consistently ignored, having their self-esteem destroyed by an algorithm designed to be addictive, being told their struggles aren't real or that they need to try harder. While people like me dismiss their experiences from positions of privilege, the friend who originally challenged me to do this experiment, I owe him a massive apology for how dismissive I was. He was trying to help me understand a reality I was blind to, and I responded with condescension and disbelief. Now I understand exactly what he was trying to tell me. Meet up with him a few weeks after ending the experiment. Still feel embarrassed about how confident I was in being wrong. You were right about everything, I tell him honestly. I had no idea what I was talking about when it came to men's dating experiences. I'm sorry for being so dismissive of what you were going through. He's gracious about it and doesn't make me feel worse, just glad that I finally understand what he was trying to explain. Most women have no idea, he tells me, because your experience is so completely different from ours. It's like we're playing entirely different games. The whole experience has changed how I think about dating permanently. Can't go back to being naive about how the system actually works. When I hear women complain about the quality of men on dating apps, I remember that we're only seeing the small percentage who get through the height filter. The vast majority of men are effectively invisible to us. Also changed how I think about my own privilege in dating. Realized I was born into easy mode without knowing it. Never had to develop resilience in the face of rejection. Never had to question my own worth based on lack of romantic success. Never had to deal with feeling fundamentally undesirable. Sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't done this experiment. Would have continued giving terrible advice to struggling men. Would have kept dismissing legitimate complaints as whining. Would have remained completely ignorant about dating inequality. The whole thing was a massive wake-up call about my own assumptions. Now, when I see guys complaining about dating apps online, instead of rolling my eyes, I actually listen to what they're saying. Because I know from first-hand experience that their struggles are real. The system really is stacked against them in ways most women don't realize. And dismissing their experiences just makes the problem worse. The experiment taught me that empathy requires understanding. You can't really understand someone's struggles until you've lived them. All my confident opinions about dating were based on complete ignorance. I thought I knew better, but I was just lucky enough to never face real challenges. Sometimes the most important lessons are the most humbling ones. Looking back, I'm actually grateful my friend challenged me to do this, even though it was uncomfortable to realize how wrong I was. The experience made me a more understanding and empathetic person, and probably saved me from years of being condescending to people who were struggling. Sometimes being proven wrong is the best thing that can happen to you. The whole thing also made me think differently about online dating in general, how these apps create artificial scarcity and abundance at the same time, how they turn dating into a market where most people feel like they're losing, how they exploit insecurities and create addictive feedback loops. The whole system seems designed to make people miserable. But mostly, I just feel bad for all the good guys who get filtered out before they even have a chance to show their personality, reduced to a number that determines their entire dating prospects. While people like me judge them for struggling with an unfair system, it's honestly heartbreaking when you really think about it. So that's my story about learning I was completely wrong about dating. Sometimes you have to experience something yourself to truly understand it. My friend was trying to help me see reality, and I was too arrogant to listen. The experiment humbled me in ways I didn't know I needed, and now I know better than to dismiss other people's struggles. If you're a woman reading this who thinks men exaggerate about dating, I challenge you to try the same experiment I did. Create a profile for an average height guy and see what happens. You might be surprised by how different the experience actually is. And maybe you'll develop some empathy for people facing different challenges. And if you're a guy who's struggling with dating apps, know that your experiences are valid and you're not making excuses. The system really is unfair in ways that most people don't understand. Don't let anyone tell you that it's all in your head or that you need to try harder. Sometimes the game is rigged, and it's not your fault that you're losing.